As we celebrate 79 years of independence, we see our country creating, innovating, and competing with the world. But when India became independent in 1947, the reality was very different.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
India had finally achieved its freedom, and the next journey was about something that was equally important: building an India that could stand on its own. We had political freedom, but economically, India was struggling. A huge population, low productivity, limited industries, and most importantly, not enough food for our people. So, India had one basic question: how do we build an economy from this position? India adopted a mixed economic model where private businesses continued to operate, but the government took lead in infrastructure, irrigation, agriculture, and large industries. The first priority was simple: feed the nation. India invested heavily in agriculture and irrigation while also building steel plants, power projects, and industries that would form the foundation of a modern economy. But even after building the foundation, one major problem remained: hunger. By the mid 1960s, droughts and poor harvests created serious food shortages, and India had to depend heavily on food imports. That is when India introduced one of its greatest agricultural transformations, the Green Revolution. Farmers began using high yielding varieties of wheat and rice, better irrigation, fertilizers, and modern farming techniques. And slowly, the country started moving from food shortages to food security. But another problem remained. If farmers and small businesses had to grow, they needed access to money. Banking at that time was still concentrated largely in cities. So, in 1969, 14 major private banks were nationalized with the aim of taking banking and credit deeper into rural India, agriculture, and small businesses.
In 1969, the Indian government nationalized 14 major commercial banks. This step was taken when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. These banks controlled about 85%.
Within a few decades, India changed dramatically. From food shortages and a weak industrial base, we had built industries, strengthened agriculture, and expanded banking all across the country. India had laid the foundations of a modern economy, but the journey towards becoming truly Atmanirbhar had just begun, and that would eventually lead India towards its next major economic transformation.
By the 1980s, India had industries, institutions, and stronger economic base, but the system was still heavily controlled.
Businesses faced regulations, imports were restricted, and access to foreign technology remained limited. So, India started changing its approach slowly. Industrial restrictions were eased, access to modern technology improved, and the first signs of a more economy began to appear. Maruti brought a new era of automobile manufacturing to the Indian roots. Infosys, founded in 1981, was one of the biggest symbols of technological revolution in India. But beneath all that progress, another problem was building. Government borrowing and spending were rising, external pressures were increasing, and the Gulf crisis made the situations even worse. By 1991, India's foreign exchange reserves had fallen so sharply that the country could barely pay for just 2 weeks of imports. In 1991, India changed the direction of its economy. Under Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh came the reforms we commonly remember as LPG: liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Industrial licensing was removed for most sectors. Foreign investments were encouraged. Trade barriers gradually came down, and private businesses received much greater freedom to compete and grow. What followed changed the country's economic identity. Software, telecom, and business services became powerful growth engines, connecting Indian companies and Indian talent with the rest of the world. Years later, India entered another major phase of transformation: the digital economy.
वर्तमान में जारी 500 रुपए और 1000 रुपए के करेंसी नोट लीगल टेंडर नहीं रहेंगे,
Demonetization in 2016 accelerated the shift towards formal and digital transactions. GST followed in 2017, creating a more unified indirect tax system across the country. UPI, which changed something every Indian experiences almost every day. A transaction that once needed cash, cards,
Or a visit to the bank is now happened within seconds by simply scanning a QR code.
this shift tells us how India has evolved economically, globally, financially, and as a nation.
Atmanirbharta was never about shutting India away from the world. It was about building the capability to create actors to stand on our own feet and compete with the world. From independence to self-reliance, from ambition to survival, and from building India to taking India to the world. This is the journey of Atmanirbhar Bharat.